Small Island by Angela Levy. Standing at the door of a house in London and ringing the bell, pushing my finger to hear the ding-dong. Oh, Celia Langley, where were you with your big ideas and your nose in the air? Could you see me? Could you see me there in London? Hortense Roberts married with a gold ring and a wedding dress in a trunk. Mrs. Joseph, Mrs. Gilbert Joseph. What do you think of that, Celia Langley? There was I in England ringing the doorbell of one of the tallest houses I had ever seen. But when I pressed this doorbell, I did not hear a ring. No ding-dong. I pressed once more in case the doorbell was not operational. The house, I could see, was shabby. Mark you, shabby in a grand sort of way. I was sure this house could have once been home to a doctor or a lawyer, or perhaps a friend of the king's. Only the house of someone high class would have pillars at the doorway. Ornate pillars that twisted with elaborate design. The glass stained with colored pictures as a church would have. It was true that some were missing, replaced by cardboard and strips of white tape. But who knows what devilish deeds Mr. Hitler's bombs carried out during the war. I pushed the doorbell again when it was obvious no one was answering my call. I held my thumb against it and pressed my ear to the window. A light came on now and a woman's voice started calling. All right, I'm coming. Give us a minute. I stepped back down 2 steps, avoiding a small lump of dog's business that rested in some litter and leaves. I straightened my coat, pulling it closed where it had unfortunately lost a button. I adjusted my hat in case it sagged in the damp air and left me looking comical. I pulled my back up straight. The door was answered by an Englishwoman, a blonde-haired, pink-cheeked Englishwoman with eyes so blue they were the brightest thing in the street. She looked on my face, parted her slender lips and said, "Yes." "Is this the household of Mr. Gilbert Joseph?" "I beg your pardon?" "Gilbert Joseph," I said a little slower. "Oh, Gilbert! Who are you?" She pronounced Gilbert so strangely that for a moment I was anxious that I would be delivered to the wrong man. "Mr. Gilbert Joseph is my husband. I am his wife." The woman's face looked puzzled and pleased all at one time. She looked back into the house, lifting her head as she did. She turned back to me and said, "Didn't he come to meet you?" "I have not seen Gilbert," I told her, then went on to ask, "But this is perchance where he is abiding?" At which this Englishwoman said, "What?" She frowned and looked over my shoulder at the trunk which was resting by the curbside where it had been placed by the driver of the taxi vehicle. "Is that yours?" she inquired. "It is." "It's the size of the Isle of Wight. How did you get it here?" She laughed a little, a gentle giggle that played round her eyes and mouth. I laughed too, so as not to give her the notion that I did not know what she was talking about as regards this white island. I said, "I came in a taxi cab and the driver assured me that this was the right address. Is this the house of Gilbert Joseph?" The woman stood for a little while before answering by saying, "Hang on here, I'll see if he's in his room." She then shut the door in my face. And I wondered, how could a person only 5 feet 6 inches tall, 5 feet 7 if I was wearing my wedding shoe heels, how could such a person get to be top of this tall house? Ropes and pulleys was all I could conceive. Ropes and pulleys to hoist me up. We had stairs in Jamaica. Even in our single-story houses, we had stairs that lifted visitors onto the veranda and another that took them into the kitchen. There were stairs at my college up to the dormitories that housed the pupils on 2 separate floors. I was very familiar with stairs. But all my mind could conjure up as I looked up at this tall house was ropes and pulleys. It was obvious that I had been on a ship for too long. In Gilbert Joseph's last letter, he made me promise that he would be there to meet me when my ship arrived at the dockside in England. He had composed 2 pages of instructions telling me how he would greet me. "I will be there," he wrote. "You will see me waving my hand with joy at my young bride coming at last to England. I will be jumping up and down and calling out your name with longing in my tone." It did occur to me that as I had not seen Gilbert for 6 months, he might have forgotten my face. The only way he would be sure of recognizing his bride was by looking out for a frowning woman who stared embarrassed at the jumping, waving buffoon she had married. But it did not matter, he was not there. There was no one who would have fitted his description. The only jumping and waving that was done was by the Jamaicans arriving and leaving the ship. Women who shivered in their church best clothes, their cotton dresses with floppy bows and lace, their hats and white gloves looking gaudy against the grey of the night. Men in suits and bow ties and smart hats. They jumped and waved at the people come to meet with them. Black men in dark scruffy coats with hand-knitted scarves, squinting and straining to see a bag or hair or shoes or a voice or a face that they knew as they perused the luggage that had been brought across the ocean and now had to be carried through the streets of London, greeting excited relatives with the same words. "You bring some guava, some rum? You have a little yam in that bag?" It was 2 hours I waited for Gilbert, 2 hours watching people hugging up lost relations and friends, laughing, wiping handkerchiefs over tearful eyes, arguing over who will go where, men lifting cases, puffing and sweating onto their shoulder, women fussing with hats and pulling on gloves, all walking off in this cold black night through an archway that looked like an open mouth. As the crowds thinned, I looked on the ground for the button that a woman who swung me around in the crowd with such force had sent one of my coat's buttons speeding into the crowd with the velocity of a bullet. But it would not have been possible to find anything in the small fading light. I did not see what now came through the door. It came through so fast. It could have been a large dog the way it leaped and bounded towards me. It was only when I heard Hortense uttered from its mouth that I realized it was my husband. "Hortense, you're here at last. Hortense." I folded my arms, sat on my trunk and averted my eye. He stopped in front of me, his arms still open wide, ready for me to run into. "Don't Hortense me, Gilbert Joseph." His arms slowly rested to his sides as he said, "You no pleased to see me, Hortense?" I quoted precisely from the letter. "I'll be looking at the dockside to meet you. You will see me there, jumping up and waving and calling your name with longing in my tone." He was breathless as he began. "Hortense, let me tell you, I came to the dock but there was no ship. So they tell me to come back later when the ship will arrive. So I go home and take the opportunity of fixing the place up nice for you when you come." Then he ran through the door saying, "Hortense, what have you in that trunk? Your mother?" As the Englishwoman was still looking at us, I smiled instead of cursing and said, "I have everything I will need in that trunk. Thank you, Gilbert." "So you bring your mother then?" Gilbert said. He broke into his laugh, which I remembered, a strange snorting sound from the back of his nose, which caused his gold tooth to wink. I was still smiling when he started to rub his hands and say, "Well, I hope you have the guava and the mango and the rum and—" "I hope you're not bringing anything into the house with that smell," the Englishwoman interrupted. This question raised the smile from my face. Turning to her, I said, "I have only brought water." But Gilbert caught my elbow. "Come, Hortense," he said as if the woman had not uttered a word. "Come, let me show you around." I had to grab the banister to pull up stair after stair. There was hardly any light, just one bulb so dull it was hard to tell whether it was giving out light or sucking it up. "Hortense, nearly there," he called like Moses from on top of the mountain. I was palpitating by the time I reached the door where Gilbert stood grinning. "Here we are." "What a lot of stairs. Could you not find a place with fewer stairs?" We went into a room. Gilbert rushed to pull a blanket over their mid-bed, still warm, I was sure. It was obvious to me he had just got out of it. I could smell gas. Gilbert waved his arms around as if showing me a lovely view. "This is the room," he said. All I saw were dark brown walls, a broken chair that rested one uneven leg on the Holy Bible, a window with a torn curtain and Gilbert's suit, the double-breasted one, hanging from a rail on the wall. "Well," I said, "show me the rest then, Gilbert." The man just stared. "Show me the rest, Na. I'm tired from the long journey." He scratched his head. "The other rooms, Gilbert, the ones you busy making so nice for me you forget to come to the dock." Gilbert spoke so softly I could hardly hear. He said, "But this is it." "I'm sorry," I said. "This is it, Hortense. This is the room I'm living." 3 steps would take me to one side of this room. 4 steps could take me to another. There was a sink in the corner, a rusty tub stuck out from the wall above it. There was a table with 2 chairs, one with its back broken, pushed up against the bed, the armchair held by a shopping bag, a pajama top, and a teapot. In the fireplace, the gas hissed with a blue flame. Just this? I had to sit on the bed. My legs gave way. There was no bounce underneath me as I fell. Just this? This is where you are living? Just this? Yes, this is it. He swung his arms around again like it was a room in a palace. Just this? Just this? You bring me all the way for just this? The man sucked his teeth and flashed angry eyes in my face. "What you expect, woman? Yes, just this. What you expect? Everyone live like this. There has been a war, houses bombed. I know plenty people live worse than this. What you want? You should stay with your mama if you want nice. There's been a war here. Everyone live like this." He looked down at me, his badly buttoned chest heaving. The carpet was threadbare in a patch in the middle, and there was a piece of bread lying on it. He sucked his teeth again and walked out of the room. I heard him banging down the stairs. He left me alone. He left me alone to stare on just this.